everyone, it is Joe here from Omnipoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon, and today we're looking at Greninja Talonflame. This is an archetype that came so close to winning the World Championships and has even been doing well and expanded recently, so it does show that the core of the Greninja deck is very strong. We know the Break has an absurd ability where the damage can get really big, so we're trying to see how it functions in the new standard format. Even though Garbodor is potentially a big issue for it, we're going to try and see how to make Greninja work. There's a few cards in here that you may question based on older lists, but I feel they are justified in the standard format, so I'll describe these as we go through, as usual. So we will start off with the ideal lead of the deck, despite this being a stage 2, thanks to Talonflame's Gale Wings ability. If this Pokemon's in our opening hand, we may put it down as our active Pokemon on the very first turn of the game. Very, very cool ability. That means that instead of having like an easy prize knockout on a Froakie, we've got a big 130 HP Talonflame in the active position that's hopefully going to make the early starts of Greninja, which have always been an issue for the deck, a little bit easier for us. So that's a big HP to tackle in the early turns for decks, as well as having a nice free retreat option, so we can move into our Frogadiers to go for duplicates on turn 2. But also, if we are going second and we've led Talonflame, we get to use Aero Blitz. For 1 colourless energy, we deal 40 damage, and we get to search the deck for any 2 cards and put them into the hand. This is really, really going to improve our chances of getting the turn 2 water duplicates, which is basically how the Greninja deck functions in general. So this is amazing. It basically forces the opponent to N us turn 2 and stuff like that. Oh, I've just got a trade. I think that's for a 4th Greninja. Yeah, it is. A bit late now, but there we go. Okay. Yeah, so we have this Aero Blitz. They have to disrupt us, basically. Otherwise, we guarantee the turn 2 water duplicates, which is really the crutch of this deck. You need to be hitting your turn 2 water duplicates, otherwise you're in trouble. And what's also pretty cool is we get to do a bit of chip damage here and there. 40 damage may not seem like much, but because Greninja doesn't do any damage really until turns like 3, 4, 5, where we start to snowball and do a lot of damage, we don't do much. So this initial poking of Aero Blitz, and we have Bursting Balloon, can sometimes put a good bit of early game pressure against things. So that's something to bear in mind. Next up we have the Greninja line. I've gone for a 3-4-4-3 line. It's a strange line. I think the biggest question mark is the one less Froakie than normal. Really, it's just because I want to lead Talonflame more. It's just a greedier way of doing it, really. I could happily see 4 Froakie going in here. I would then just cut the Splash Energy, but I'm liking Splash Energy at the moment a little bit more. So I've gone down to just the 3 Froakie. Because we can be leading Talonflame quite often, we can find these relatively easy. For the opening turns, we only really ever need to find 2, and then we can get the duplicates going and be happy from there. Getting that 3rd one down is always fine as well for late game. When we've recycled back a Frogadier, we can slowly evolve up a Greninja in the background. It can work out quite nicely. At the moment, I'm happy with a 3 count, but I could definitely see it going back up to 4 to make spaces. Right now, we have the 4 Frogadier, of course. This is the big reason why, or one of the reasons why Greninja is so good. Water duplicates for just 1 water energy allows us to search the deck for 3 Frogadier and put them onto our bench as if they were basic Pokemon, really. So from then on, all of our Greninjas basically become like fake stage 1 Pokemon instead of the stage 2s that they actually are, because this duplicates attack is so good at getting us set up. Very, very good option for us, and we're almost always going to be going for this attack, if possible, on the 2nd turn of the game. From there, we have Greninja. 130 HP is an okay baseline for a stage 2. Free retreat, again, is a great factor to keep an eye on. It means we can move between our guys quite efficiently. It is really important when we are starting to break evolve. It means we can quite easily use 1 break evolution, free retreat out into the other one. Very, very important point about this card. It has 2 pretty handy attacks, both fairly efficient. For 1 energy each. This is a colourless energy. We can do Shadow Stitching for 40. And until the end of your opponent's next turn, each Pokemon's your opponent has in play, in their hand, or in the discard pile has no abilities. This is really, really good. So it's as if you've Hex Maniac them, basically. This is going to be amazing for the likes of Volcanion. We already hit for weakness, but additionally they can't use their Steam Up abilities, so that is very awkward for them. It's going to really obviously help out in the mirror match. It's going to help out against anything using Octillery. It's going to help out against a bunch of different things, even Yanmega, which would otherwise be fairly awkward because they are grass types. So having this Shadow Stitching is going to be very helpful in certain matchups. And then for when abilities are less important or when we just need to push for more damage, the just 1 water energy cost does 60, but an additional 20 if we return a water energy attached to Greninja into the hand. This is pretty handy. It means we're never really worried about energy denial decks like Crushing Hammers or stuff like that, because we're always going to just pick the energy back up into our hand where it's safe, basically. So that's a pretty handy thing to do, as well as keeping that energy around. If we are to get knocked out, we have the energy to use on our other Greninjas or even our Greninja breaks. So really, really good attacks on this guy. Following up, we have the Greninja BREAK. The whole reason why this deck is so strong is because this giant Water Shuriken ability, every time I talk about Greninja, I have to just say the word absurd, because it really is such a powerful ability. Even though this is essentially a stage 3 Pokemon, it's still amazing. 170 HP is really good for a non-EX. We're basically in the realms of an EX at that point. And the ability, once during a turn, you may discard a water energy from your hand when Greninja BREAK is in the active position, and we get to place 6 counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. Very, very good stuff. Especially because, like I was saying earlier, you can free retreat into your other Greninja. That can be 120 damage without attacking in a turn. So that can be knocking out Shamans, or it can be setting up other EXs for knockouts. Even with the attack, then we're getting into the right sort of ranges that we need to be hitting. So very flexible as well. We can deal damage all the way around the board to really have a good sense of control in the game, to really set up things for future turns. It's a very, very good ability, and it's why Greninja's been so successful, pretty much. So, no other Pokemon in the deck. There will pretty much never be any other Pokemon in this deck if you're playing the Talonflame build, because you don't want to have any, or a decreased chance of leading the Talonflame. So I think the only Pokemon count that switches is adding a Froakie or not. That's really up to you. Onto the items now. We do have the one of Level Ball. I like having Search for Froakie. This does that. It also gets you Frogadier. You just need to hit pretty much 2 Froakies on turn 1 to be as safe as possible. So that's what we are going to try and do with a really high ball search count in total. We have the 1 Level Ball, the 4 Dive Ball, which again gets Froakies and Frogadiers, but has the late game potential of getting the other dudes. So we max out this one. And we also have 2 Ultra Ball, which can grab all of these guys once again. In addition, it can declunk the deck of certain cards. One thing to note about playing the Talonflame is that naturally we have at least 3 dead cards in our deck. That's if we start with the 1 Talonflame in the first place. There'll be games when we lead Froakie, and we're pretty sad about that, because then we have 4 dead slots in our deck, all of these Talonflames, that we can never use, so we want to Ultra Ball these away, basically. But yeah, it still provides great search for us. Next up, we are playing 2 Super Odd for our Recycle. It gets back water energy as well to respam the shurikens, but keeps us with a good old army of frogs to keep on going throughout the game. We are playing 1 Max Potion. We're not playing Rough Seas anymore because I feel Faded Town is necessary right now, thanks to the amount of Megas that would otherwise be awkward matchups. But the 1 Max Potion does swing a couple of games for you. Whenever decks can't one-hit KO, things like Scizor and also Mirror Match, this is amazing in the mirror. Because it's slow damage and you can just sometimes completely wipe yourself of all damage. It's really, really cool. As a 1 card out, it can completely swing games sometimes in terms of the race. Because we can move between our dudes as well, we can often get value. Moonlight Slash is moving energy into the hand, so it's basically a free heal. It's a very good card in a couple of niche certain circumstances, but when it comes off, it really does improve a lot of matchups. So I do like the Max Potion as a one-of. There'll be times when it doesn't come off and it's not great for you, but I like the one-of just for that option. I think it's very, very strong. Then we do have the 4 VS Seeker to respam our supporters when need be. Pretty standard stuff. Onto the supporters, we are playing the 1 of Lysandre. I would maybe like to have 2 in here, because Garbodor is of course a threat. Sometimes you want to Lysandre it, but it would be a 2-hit KO, so really you just have to let the Garbodor stay on a lot of the time in certain games. But yeah, it is an option. It also gives us some stall options in the early turns when we're trying to basically just stay alive and limit the amount of prizes the opponent can take. So if you just Lysandre and hope the opponent doesn't have a switch or escape rope or something, that can be a decent option for you. It's something I would like to potentially increase down the line. We are playing the one-off Fisherman. We get to get loads of energy back into our hand, 4 from the discard pile, so that we can spam lots more water shurikens. This is really a late game card, so that we can automatically just guarantee ourselves a big burst of damage. It's a pretty cool option, I'd say. Next up we have the Ace Trainer, just a one-off because we have N back, so this used to be like a front runner. This used to be like a 2 or 3 count in the Greninja deck. Now it's just a one-off, and this sort of provides a bit of disruption factor. You can see in the strengths, I say this deck has lots of disruptive aspects, and you don't always consider Greninja as a disruption deck, but in my opinion it really is, because from turns like 3 onwards, you can be denying your opponent like more than a 3-card hand after using Ace Trainer, as well as having Bursting Balloons, Faded Towns, and the potential to Shadow Stitch. That's a lot of oppressive sorts of things that we can do to opponents, so Greninja does make life awkward for a load of decks, and Ace Trainer is really good at doing this early on in the game, whereas N gets really good late game. Ace Trainer is the best option in those earlier turns. We do still have the 4N though, slightly improved version of Ace Trainer for most of the game, because in the early turns it means we can play it on turn 1 if our hand's dead, unlike Ace Trainer, where we have to already be behind on prizes. Additionally, it just means that N is just a little bit of extra shuffle draw and a bit more disruptive in the late game to the opponent at the very least. Then we still have the 4 Sycamore. We need to dig sometimes to hit our combo pieces. That's only natural, pretty simple stuff. And we get onto the pretty interesting cards. We are playing 4 Faded Town in this deck. Really, the biggest issue that people say about Greninja is the ability lock, and it's definitely true. Right now, the majority of decks playing Garb are Mega decks. So the way we're going to try and compensate for the fact that we can't use our Giant Water Shuriken is by trying to win the Stadium War with Faded Town, and by trying to put Bursting Balloon on as often as possible to sort of cheat our way of getting damage that way. So having an absolute highest count possible of 4 Faded Town is going to be really important for us, in my opinion, to try and force our way to winning Stadium Wars against a whole bunch of different decks. All these Megas like Scizor and Mewtwo, these are the biggest ones that play Garb. Having lots of Faded Town can be pretty awesome for you. Similar reason why we're playing the Bursting Balloons. That extra 6 counters is pretty much it's the same as a Giant Water Shuriken Snipe. So in those early turns where we're not doing any damage via attacks, we can still be getting damage on via Bursting Balloon. Sometimes you even want to put these on your bench dudes, like your bench Froakies, Frogadiers, or even Greninjas sometimes, before you're able to Break Evolve, so that your opponent just doesn't go for the Lysandre. If they go for the Lysandre, they've dealt 60 damage to themselves. Sure, they've got rid of a potential threat on our board, but there's actually been a punishment for it. So Bursting Balloon's a nice deterrent against these sorts of things, to put your opponent in sort of a lose-lose situation. If they choose to Lysandre and deal with the board state, they're taking damage in the process at the very least. So I think having access to these are very important. Onto the energy, we're playing a 9 count, which is actually slightly higher than I normally play. It's because I've made the space for 1 Splash Energy. I do quite like Splash Energy. It's sort of winning me over as a one-of at least, because it's going to make sure that we can keep a lot of Greninjas around. As well as these 2 Super Odds, we have this Splash. I know a lot of the time Moonlight Slash moves energy to the hand, but there are situations when you don't need the extra push of damage, and similarly there are situations when you can afford to Shadow Stitch instead. Especially when you're denying the hand of your opponent. If you're ending them or Ace Trainering them, combining Ability Lock hurts their outs a lot. So sometimes it's fine to keep the energy on board, so the Splash Energy is going to be very helpful for us, so that we can recover maybe a full line of Greninja, and straight away you can insta-play like half of those things on your board a lot of the time, so it really does get great value for us in my opinion. Following up, we still have a really high count of basic water energy. It's still important to have basics, of course, because it's recyclable by Fisherman, Super Rod, and of course it has to be basic energy for the ability in the first place. So there we are. That is the 60 I'm rocking with right now. A couple of extra things you could be considering. Town map is one thing that I would definitely consider in here. One of the biggest weaknesses of this deck sometimes can be just the fact that you've prized some awkward things. If you've prized a Frogadier, a Greninja BREAK, these sorts of things could be really detrimental to you. Even things like the one-off Lysandre, those would be a big deal. So making space for Tau Map, I think, could be something you could consider in here. Additionally, Rough Seas, we're not playing it right now because I think it's too important to have Faded Town, but potentially making space for one Rough Seas isn't horrible in a number of matchups. So potentially a split of 3-1 you could get away with, but I think at the moment it's just safe to have maxing out the old Faded Town. A couple of supporters, Wally could be important. At the moment I'm not playing it just as a one-off, but I can definitely see, especially because you can search it out with Talonflame, right? It can be pretty clutch in certain situations, so Wally could be a good option. Talking about recovery of Pokemon, why not look at Karen? Karen is a stronger version. Obviously, it is the use of a supporter. The real reason I see to play this is because we are otherwise fairly weak to Vespiquen. Now, we do have the ability, which is handy, and we have Bursting Balloons, which sort of balances the matchup. But if we can drop a Karen in during the game, we should be in a favourable spot for sure. So that could be an option for you. At the moment, I've just gone for the speed of Super Rod. I'd rather be disrupting the opponent's hand or just drawing cards or using Fisherman, basically. So there's not many times when I feel ahead enough in a game that we can use a Karen, because oftentimes Greninja falls behind in prizes, so you're on the catch-up. And if you're using Karen, it doesn't really seem fast enough. But there are going to be those games when you have to discard lots of Pokemon early and you're really sad that Super Rod can't get you the rest of the way. That's kind of why I've added the Splash Energy for a little bit of extra recovery, in my opinion. Final option is going to be Eco Arm. Eco Arm could be an interesting call instead of something like the Max Potion. The Bursting Balloons are horrific to play around for a lot of different decks. If people are using Lysandre, they're not using Hex. So as long as you're spamming Bursting Balloon, it forces a catch-22 situation where they either take the Bursting Balloon damage and they've hexed us, or they're hexing so that we don't use the abilities, but they're getting a balloon in the face every time. So a one-off Eco Arm could help spamming those Bursting Balloons even more to make life very awkward for the opponent. So those are a few suggestions for the deck, but that's what I'm rocking with right now. So we'll jump into the ladder and try and find some good games. For some reason, half my decks are just, or more than half, most of my decks aren't even showing up, but there we go. We will jump into some games. We have Own 3100, and we will flip the lovely coin. We do unfortunately lose the flip, but we can live with this. It means potentially if we lead, oh, we do. Now, this deck is so much better when you lead Talonflame. I can't tell you how much better this deck is when it leads Talonflame than when it doesn't. It's just a completely different deck. Looks like we are up against a Garbodor build that also plays Water Energy, so I'm not sure what deck this is. Playing Garbodor is awkward, of course. And the one thing we'd want more than anything here is a Water Energy, because going second it means we could use Aero Blitz, but right now we don't have much of a hand, unfortunately. The opponent does lead with their Trubbish. They do Trainer's Mail for an Ultra Ball. And we're going to see the Ultra Ball getting rid of 2 Trainer's Mails, so 3 gone already. And we're going to see a Glaceon. Now, Glaceon plus Garb means we do no damage. The one thing we do have, of course, is Bursting Balloon. We could Bursting Balloon our way through a Glaceon, which is quite fun. We're going to see 2 Elixirs. The first one hits, the second one doesn't. We see a Lightning Energy. So it looks like it's just a Ninja Boy box with Garb, which is pretty interesting. We get End into a much better hand, which is fantastic. And we're going to see an Ultra Ball now. They get rid of a Hex. The opponent goes for a Shaman EX. There's Rough Seas, which is actually a stadium we want to get rid of in this matchup, despite us being able to get value out of it. We're going to see a third Elixir, and that hits as well, so that Glaceon is ready to go. And the opponent's going to pass it over to us. Top decking that dive ball makes me breathe a real sigh of relief. Means we can grab that second Froakie. Looks like we haven't prized any Frogadier. Haven't prized any of our Greninja line, which is good. And let's have a look at what else we have here. We have prized 2 Bursting Bloom, which isn't great because they feel like big part players in this matchup. But either way, we will grab this Froakie for now. I'm going to bench it. We're going to attach to Talonflame. And I think it is important to get the 40 damage on right now, because it means later on we can Lysandre and deal a knockout with the Greninja. So definitely going to take the opportunity to get the 40 damage on board. And we are going to look for definitely a supporter card to refresh the hand. And I think just an energy is the other thing I want here. That's all I really need, because then I can retreat and get my duplicates going whilst playing N to try and shuffle draw back in those other Frogadier. I think those are the things that I want to do. This could actually be a Sycamore, the more I think about it. Getting the Lysandre and the Fisherman in there for later on could be absolutely fine. So that's what I'm going to go for now. The opponent has the option to Lysandre knock out 1 Froakie, which would be pretty grim. Looks like they're going to N us. So that is the thing that you do need to do against Talonflame players. Let's see if we can get our duplicates next turn. Doesn't look like we can, because no energy, which is somewhat of a shame. Does the opponent have... No, they have no tool for Garbodor, so that's good. And we actually top deck into the water energy, so definitely going to take the opportunity to get the duplicates going. I don't need to change the stadium just yet. But I might, just because the opponent has been spamming N. I think I will replace. And we're going to duplicates. And fill up the rest of our board. So it looks like next turn we're most likely going to have to go back to Talonflame. This Crystal Ray will be dealing 70 damage to us. The opponent's starting to attach to Shaman. They are most likely playing Ninja Boy. You can tell that by the lightning energy that the opponent's playing. So there's probably a Jolteon hiding in there somewhere. Have to bear in mind that, because it of course would one-hit KO a Talonflame. The opponent's just going to go for a Sycamore here. Gets rid of... There is a Jolteon. Also has Ranger. And another Rough Seas gets discarded. There is Trainsmail, finally finds a Float Stone, so the opponent can start taking prizes at last. Also gets the ability shut off, and here comes Glaceon. So there is the Crystal Ray. And we'll promote the free retreat Talonflame. I'm most likely attacking with it anyway based on our hand. And we actually get a Bursting Bloom, which is really nice. So what we're going to do is we're going to evolve 2 Greninjas. We're going to Bursting Bloom the Frogadier, because that's the thing he would likely Lysandre. We're going to use this Super Rod to recycle our Froggies. And we're going to Aero Blitz, try and find ourselves definitely Sycamore. And I think just the other Talonflame's the card I want here, to be honest. Just get rid of it and have a clean old Sycamore. Get rid of the dead cards. Alternatively, I could have gone for a useful card, like a Greninja BREAK or something, but with Garbodor up right now, there's no real need. Interestingly, even though Talonflame is posing as a basic Pokemon, it still does no damage to Glaceon, of course, because it is an evolved Pokemon, even with nothing below it. It would be the same ruling for something that's been Archied or Maxied into play, because it's an unevolved basic. I mean, an unevolved stage 2. So the opponent does go for Ninja Boy. Also gets a Fury Belt on board. That's going to be pesky for us to deal with, even more HP to get over. They do go for the attachment to the Glaceon on the bench. And there is indeed Crystal Ray for the 80 damage, and Bursting Bloom goes away. We top deck into Greninja, so protecting the Frogadier was pretty helpful. And we'll Sycamore now. So the next thing on our agenda is to find a Lysandre. So that's going to be what we dig for next with this Talonflame's attack. So all of these things are possible thanks to us having Talonflame, which is really handy. I'm again going to protect Frogadier, I believe. I think that's the thing to do. I may as well attach an energy while I have one. And we're going to Aero Blitz. And we're going to go for Lysandre. And I think also Ace Trainer for the following turn. So next turn the play is to knock out Garbodor. From there will be Ace Trainering, limiting their hand size and starting to get some snipes going. That's the idea at least. So there's an attachment to Glaceon. And just a Crystal Ray. So we'll promote Greninja. All of them have free retreat. So it's not too big of an issue. So we will just evolve Lysandre. And we're going to Moonlight Slash to finish off Garb. I will return the energy to hand. I see no real reason not to. And if we're going to take only like 70 damage, 80 damage a turn, sorry, it's going to be cool to retreat around these frogs and make it awkward for the opponent. So here comes an Ultra Ball. The opponent straight away goes for another Trubbish. We do have VS Seeker in hand, so I'm not too concerned unless they get multiple Trubbish out. And just a Crystal Ray. So we feel pretty content with this. We're just going to freely retreat. Attach an energy. VS Seek the Lysandre. Definitely need to deny the opponent any of these. And of course we need to deal the extra damage, deal with Trubbish this turn. Best thing we want off of our prizes really are Bursting Balloons, because there are 2 in there, and it's going to really help get into these Glaceon. Looks like we find a Dive Ball, that's also appreciated. Now the Ace Trainer seems pretty silly. Could have been just a VS Seeker in hindsight. The opponent's gone down to a 7-card deck already, and they only have 4... I mean, they still have 4 prizes to go, and they don't hit that hard. So... Oh, he played Rough Seas as well. I don't think he should have done that, because now we push Greninja. Well, I guess it doesn't push us out of range, but it does feed us a lot of health and makes it really awkward for him. So I'm really not going to replace this stadium, I don't think. I think the mill is actually probably our best option here. Obviously, we can start getting break evolutions out as well. So we're going to be out damaging him for sure. So actually, if I'm going for the damage approach, I may as well replace the stadium. The only thing is that next turn we get so much value out of it. I think I'm going to keep it in for 1 turn. Let's think about the damage here. 6, 120, 200, 260. Oh, it is relevant. No, I think I'm keeping it in for a turn. I could play the Fisherman this turn as well, just to get them into the hand. I think I will do that. In case the opponent goes for a Lysandre play on one of these dudes, we have the Ace Trainer available. And we're going to Moonlight Slash. For the big old 0. There's another Lightning Energy to Glaceon. I wonder what Pokemon they might have in the back for Ninja Boy targets. We are going to see a Lysandre and a Crystal Ray. So we'll go into this Greninja. I'm going to play Rough Seas, then we'll replace it. I'm happy to attach an energy to the bench. Shuriken. I could easily play Super Rod, but I don't think I actually want to draw into those just yet. I think I'd rather just Ace Trainer here. We do find a Dive Ball, so that gets us another Break Evolution. And this is where we'll start to out-damage them. So we're going to Moonlight Slash to get that water energy back into the hand where it is much better served in this matchup because we're only damaging via abilities right now. So we see VS Seeker for Hex. That does buy the opponent one turn. Puts us up to 100. So I think it's going to be retreat into here. And just pass. I think passing's fine. We obviously have Bubble as well as an option, but I think with only 3 prizes left, it's a bit of a risk. We have no more balloons that we can draw into, so I don't think there's much we need to do here. I think we just pass. The opponent is running out of resources. Interesting that they play Garb and Hex. This feels like it's out to get Greninja. There's a Lysandre. And they're going to take the Break Evolution while they can. So we will promote our break. We can attach to the bench. Get a big old Shuriken off. And the best thing here is that the opponent hasn't used Crystal Ray obviously on this Glaceon, so we can actually get an attack off with it. Because we got both Bursting Balloon, that's actually like awkward for us. I'm going to put them both on. Play the Rod. Just to get these. I'm going to Sycamore. Do get Greninja Break and an energy in hand, which is lovely. Which means we can get a Shuriken in. And we can Moonlight Slash and actually do some damage this time. So, what can the opponent come up with here? Still 2 prizes away. I feel fairly safe now to win this game. He knows he can't Lysandre. Yeah, okay. He's got nothing left, it looks like. He's going to attack into the balloon. And it means all we need is to Shuriken for the game. So, we were able to overcome a Glaceon... what's it called? Glaceon Garb deck, which sounds otherwise like a horrendous matchup, but yeah, we did it. Let's see what else we can come up with. Looks like this is a fire-based deck. The biggest fire contender right now is likely Volcanion, but it's not that because we didn't see the part water typing in the opening slides. And sad times, we have not led Talonflame, and this is where we see how much worse of a deck this is when you don't lead Talonflame. Energy Recycler, is this going to be Typhlosion, I wonder? Yeah, this is Typhlosion. Okay, this is scary. This is a scary deck for us. Getting a couple of mulligans is quite big for us here, though. Oh, 2 Sycamore is a really big deal for us. The opponent does lead Shaman EX, which is pretty helpful for us. We're gonna be very thankful to take those easier prizes in a race here. The opponent uses Scorched Earth, gets a Cyndaquil and an Energy down, and just passes, so fairly slow. We're going to Dive Ball for another Froakie. All of our Frogadier are here. Having to get rid of one Greninja is pretty painful, seeing as though we've also prized one. I'm going to attach for potential bubble plays. We're going to discard the Stadium and just Sycamore this hand away. We do get Bursting Balloon. How big of a deal is Bursting Balloon here? I think it might be better next turn. Yeah, I think this isn't the turn to use it. We do get heads on the bubble, which is great. Let's see how many switch cards the Typhlosion player actually has. There's a Skylar. So, Skylar for Candy. And there is Candy into Typhlosion. And potentially, yes, just a pass to us. So I felt like that was a good hold of the balloon. Made a lot of sense to me. We're not going to risk, obviously we can't Sycamore when we've got 2 Rod in hand. We're not going to risk the N because we could draw into more Frogadier. So I'm pretty happy to just use the duplicates here. And get them all out. And shuffle up. The balloon is on the right target right now for us. Really the thing for our opponent here this turn is to see how many more Cyndaquil they can get into play. We do just see an N. I'm thankful for that. Our hand was pretty grim. We do draw into Ultra Ball, which is pretty nice. The opponent gets Scorched Earth going for a little bit more draw. There's a retreat, and it looks like, okay, they do have an Ultra Ball. Getting rid of even more fire. You have to expect that. Let's see if they have an Energy Recycler as well this turn. That would be pretty big. Oh, they do. That's really nice. Getting 5 fire energy back is really improving their odds here. Obviously, they don't need much. They just need 1 massive eruption. Sorry, and look at that, the overkill. It's beautiful sometimes. Typhlosion, very cool archetype. But that Bursting Balloon does come into effect for us, which is nice. We are going to use Super Rod here. And we're going to Ultra Ball. Going to grab ourselves, of course, a Greninja so that we can respond on this guy. And I think it's actually better to Sycamore here than it is to N. The opponent only has a 3-card hand. So I think it's better to not feed them cards. Do you find a dive ball? We're going to use that now. Get ourselves a Greninja for next turn. Could potentially bench this Froakie for bubble plays. Don't think there's any need. So we'll just Moonlight Slash. Even out the prize trade. And we pick up Lysandre as well, which isn't too big of a deal. The opponent does promote Cyndaquil, so they might already have the answers. There's the Scorched Earth for 2 cards. There's another Cyndaquil. And an N of their own. So they have to hit Candy Flosion here. Let's see if they're able. There's a Super Rod. Gets back some of their Typhlosion pieces. And we get hit with a Tackle for 10. Much less scary. So, look at these Talonflame. This is why no one likes Talonflame. We're going to replace the stadium just to try and make it awkward for the opponent. Next turn. And because we have the splash, I think I'm more inclined to just stitching here. It gets the knockout thanks to weakness. And it limits their outs if they have more Shamans maybe lined up. Biggest thing here was that we couldn't find a Greninja Break. If we were able to, we could have dealt with both Cyndaquils in a turn and we would have been in amazing shape. But unfortunately, we drew into 3 Talonflame. We see a retreat of Cyndaquil, an evolution into Quilava, and it looks like again just a pass. And we get Lysandre, which is such a big top deck. That's ridiculous. That really is amazing for us. Gonna hold the energy, and again we're stitching because it only has 80 HP. So we feel in a commanding position now. Yeah, there we go. Able to take out a Talonflame. No, not, what am I saying? Typhlosion. Even with 3 Talonflame in our hand. Not bad. So a couple of wins so far with Greninja, proving its worth. Let's find another game. Looks like this was a Firewater colourless, so this could be Volcanion this time. Let's see what we can do against it. We are going to flip that coin. Going to lose the flip. And let's see. Cross your fingers for Talonflame. That's the big deal with this deck. The deck is far superior when you do start Talonflame to when it doesn't. We are quite reliant on that because we have no other draw engine. We're not playing Shaman or Octillery. Using that Aero Blitz is very important for this deck quite often for really ironing out the creases. No luck there. We've just got the Froakie. Do have a pretty good hand though. We can Dive Ball for a backup Froakie. We have the Frogadier, then we can Sycamore away. Quite a clean hand. The Max Potion has yet to get value in any game, which makes me a little bit sad. Like I say, there's a few options for this card to change. The opponent is deciding what to promote, it looks like. And here we go. So again, our opponent's taking their time. Ugh, it's the nightmare of trying to do videos when the opponent's slow. Here we go. And it is indeed Volcanion. So, as long as we set up, we should be favoured. We hit for weakness. We have stitching to stop their abilities so that they can't one-hit KO breaks. So there's a lot going on for us here. Let's see how we get on. The opponent does go for the baby Volcanion with an Ultra Ball. Also plays Escape Rope to get it into the active quite nicely. We see a Fire Energy attachment and an N, ending us out of our quite nice hand. Into also quite a nice hand. Okay, that's fine. Breathing a sigh of relief. It's always those like first 2 turns as a Greninja player where your heart is pounding and you just hope that you don't lose in 2 turns. We see a Fury Belt. Another baby Volcanion and just a pass. We top deck Greninja Break. So I'm going to get rid of both of these pieces. And we'll grab Froakie. Looks like we have prized a Frogadier. Have all of our balloons, which is nice. So there is Froakie. And we'll hold the rest of our hand. No need to put the stadium in yet, because obviously it doesn't benefit us in any way. And we'll wait to bounce the opponent's stadium. We are going to see the Fury Belt and the Scorched Earth. I would quite like to have hit a Water Energy this turn so that we could go for the bubble plays, but it's not the end of the world that we couldn't. And we do get End, so again it's heart in mouth time to see if we can get a duplicates going. Looks like we can. We are going to see a Steam Up and Scorched Earth as well. There's a turn attachment to the benched EX and a Power Heater. So there's Lone Froakie. Not going to be alone for long because we can play the Dive Ball for the Frogadier. And we'll evolve up. Ballooning the active 60, 110. I think we will. Can't risk the N as well because if we draw into one more Frogadier and then we can only duplicates 1, that's like a game losing play. So we have to just play a little bit slower here. Also that N gets even more value next turn because he's likely to knock us out. So we shall see if we can ride the wave of pressure that we're running into right now. You see, I think that was 1 Steam Up, was it? There's an Energy Retrieval. And a second Steam Up. Just to reach the knockout here. We're going to see a Trainer's Mail. For an Acro. Surprised that they've played out their hand before using the mail. Didn't make much sense. The Escape Rope gets discarded, so the opponent is happy enough to go through the Bursting Balloon here. Attaching again to the EX. So that's quite a few frogs in our discard right now. Do have the Faded Town, the attachment and the Greninja. And we can follow up with an N. We're going to discard N and Sycamore here. I believe. Yeah. And we're just going to grab another Greninja, I feel. We're going to balloon the active. And we will Moonlight Slash. For the knockout, your opponent currently does have the knockout lined up for them next turn with this guy. But the idea is if we can drop an Ace Trainer on them, maybe find a break, it's going to be awkward for them to return the favour. Because they need to use like Ranger or a switching card, stuff like that. So, down to a lone Greninja, but it's not all over. We will attach and just play the Ace Trainer outright here. Don't find any Greninja breaks. That's awkward. That's really awkward. Okay, so it's at 160. I think it's safer to not knock out here. I think it's safer to stitching. They just need one energy, right? To pay, retreat, attach, knockout. Oh, man. Yeah, so we're stitching. Don't know why I ballooned. Panic balloon. And yeah, losing to Volcanion feels pretty bad. Grim. Okay, a few factors were at play there. Prizing one Frogadier is always a pain. Additionally, no Talonflame. Additionally, Splash Energy was prized. All of those things added up to a lot of discomfort for us there. So that's a bit of a shame. But we will jump into another game and see how we roll. Looks like it might be a mirror match here. I saw watercolourless, so could well be Greninja Mirror. And the only saving grace about Greninja Mirror is mainly that we're not both playing Rough Seas anymore, so we can actually eventually deal damage to each other. Okay, that was a scoop. Maybe because they knew it was Greninja Mirror and didn't have the time of day. Saving the viewers a bit of pain, I guess. Thanks for that. We get a nice Steam Siege pack. Cool. On our way to a Keldeo, boys and girls. That's pretty sweet. Someone noted the other day that I say lads and boys too much and don't acknowledge the female viewers. So, sorry for that. I'm changing my ways. But we have another game against King Dragon. Looks like it was watercolourless again, so if we run into like another Typhlosion, I don't know what's going on. We've faced some really weird decks today, as seems to always be the case. Oh yes, leading the Talonflame is fantastic. Did I press no? Oh, I didn't read that at all. I'm so upset with that. No! No! Why is it not yes to lead Talonflame? What? Damn it, PTCGO. Damn it, my lack of reading skills. Look how many cards they're getting now as well. Oh, I'm so upset. Oh, look how many mulligans this is. No! I'm so sad. Why? Why? Oh, PTCGO, don't do this to me. Oh, so upset. Well, we're up against Houndoom Bunnelby. This shouldn't be a difficult matchup for us. I don't think. Because there's not much he can do just to disrupt us, right? We have free retreat on most of our dudes. He can't hammer away stuff. So it's really a race to see how many things he can get rid of. We play 2 Rod, lots of N to shuffle draw, so we should be in good shape. I'm just going to attach and bubble. And we get the heads, so that saved us 2 cards of being milled. That's nice. See a crushing hammer. Gets a tails. And the opponent passes. So I'm going to dive ball for Frogadier. And the question is, how many do I duplicates here? I think I'm just going to... I might duplicates all of them, you know. They do have a 1 retreat cost though, so it opens up Lysandre stall. So it may be that I only just go for 1, just in case I'm going to get knocked out, in case the opponent does start going for Houndoom. But I highly doubt they will go for attacking options. So we just need the 1 here. We have a lot of dead cards in our deck in this game, but at the same time, there's a lot of cards he has to mill through. You're going to see a Parallel City, reducing our damage, and a Burrow, and the milling has begun. Gets rid of a VS and a Water Energy. We're going to Dive Ball, find ourselves Greninja. Going to evolve up. And we're going to... Are we going to Lysandre here? I don't think we're going to. We're going to Moonlight Slash just to keep the Water Energy in hand so it can't be hammered away. Just the 60 damage, of course, because of Parallel. Let's see if they have things like Max Potion. It's one of the reasons why I didn't go for the Lysandre, because it could just be a wasted card. Just the Burrow. And we're only really sad if he starts discarding Super Odds. Like, those are like the only things we concern ourselves with. So all we need to do is simply Moonlight Slash, sorry. And we get the level ball, which is not useful in any way. You could do us a favour and start getting rid of some Talonflames. Wouldn't mind that at all. We're going to see a Professor's Letter here. So there's the attachment and the Melting Horn. There's a Talonflame and a Sycamore. Those are very... I'm happy to see those go. Now, I could dig for 2 prizes here with an N to get an energy. I think it's reasonable because our opponent's hand size is so large. And we do hit energy. So we get the Shuriken off. Am I going to play this Stadium? I think we can. And the opponent scoops because it's only a matter of 2 to 3 turns that we win the game. And they didn't have... They had much more than that to win it on their side of the board. So I'm feeling generous. Let's get one more game in and see how we roll. Let's start up against a Psychic Colourless deck. This could be Mewtwo. And Mewtwo is an interesting matchup. We're up against Naru QB, so it looks like a Naruto fan. And we will shuffle up. And if we do have a Talonflame presented in front of us, we will click the correct option this time. Kind of frustrating. There's a mulligan though. And we do have Talonflame. So when you have a Froakie, it gives you the option of which, but if you don't, you have to read a long piece of text. So, heads up PTCGO players. Looks like the opponent does draw for a mulligan, and then for turn, and it is indeed a Mewtwo deck. So, we have Bursting Balloons, and we have 4 Faded Towns for this very occasion. Let's see how it pays off. The big thing here is really to try and play around damage change as best we can. That's the big deal. The opponent gets Psychic Energy, Spirit Link. They also have a Lysandre for next turn. So I really want to hit a Froakie or a Ball card off our top deck, or a supporter. We have a lot of good outs here. The opponent does go for an Ultra Ball. Let's see if they're digging for Trubbish or something like Hooper. Just Hooper for now. They are playing Ninja Boy. Very interesting. That's a rare sighting in a Mewtwo list. So Scoundrel Ring is happening as we speak. We know the opponent has Lysandre and another card in hand. We don't know what it is though. They're still likely to grab a Shaman though, I would imagine. Yep. Mewtwo, Mega and Shaman. Ah, it was a Max Elixir. Interesting to see Elixirs in a Mewtwo build. It does come off for them, which is cool. And we do see the Lysandre turn 1, which makes me fairly sad. And we are going to see the big old setup. I think it may well have been better to hold that Lysandre, you know. It means I can't Aero Blitz, right? But it does mean that he can't knock out this Froakie. I don't know, it depends what she was expecting from my hand. Unless they have VS Seeker as their other card in hand, then it makes a lot of sense. Oh, we do top deck into Bull Search card. That's exactly what I needed to see. So we'll grab Froakie. No point in bubbling because they just evolve. So we will retreat. And pass. So the opponent does Mega Evolve, as expected. So they're playing Turbo and Elixir. This is a really speedy Mewtwo build, which means it's probably not playing Trubbish. So I doubt they have space. We see a Hex, that's really premature, and a Psychic Infinity. And we actually get Frogadier. There's actually quite a bit of debate to just Aero Blitz this turn. Because I'm in top deck mode. Sure, I can duplicates, then it gets knocked out, then I'm left with just Greninja and whatever I top deck. So I think it's more important to Aero Blitz here. And I'll still choose not to evolve. So what we want is an Energy and an Ace Trainer, I believe. May as well be the Splash. So we see another Mewtwo, see an attachment again, and an N. And that's pretty awkward for us. Getting Faded Town's pretty cool. There is the big old Psychic Infinity, ramping up the damage now at 130 with 1 energy on our side, so starting to get pretty big. We do have a dive ball for a Frogadier. We'll evolve up. I am going to put Faded Town into play. And we're going to use an N of our own. Looking really just for water energy. Ah, so painful. So painful. Okay, we do have Balloon though, right? That's something. We got something. Ah, so painful. Gross. That is gross. The good thing about Bursting Balloon is it's 120 instead of 130. We see the opponent does go for another Mega. See another attachment to the Mewtwo and a Sycamore. No replacement stadium, so they're taking a big chunk of damage again. Going up to 140 and 20 onto the bench. Oh, Frogadier is the top deck. That's a really good one. We can now play Super Rod. Get back some frog pieces. And energy is important enough to get 2 of, I think, here. I could even Fisherman just for 1. Fisherman for 1. How bad is that? Actually, I do want to hit a balloon this turn, right? Okay, we'll be greedy. Punish me last time, don't punish me again, Pokemon. What is going on here? Oh, no. Where? Damn. That was greedy because I felt behind. Damn, son. Well, losses to Mewtwo and to Volcanion. Oh, that Mewtwo. Oh, so infuriating. Playing the 9 energy count as well. It's higher than most. Oh, sad times. But yeah, there's Greninja. Even with all the Faded Towns and the balloons, it wasn't enough. Just because of dead draw. So yeah, that's a shame, I would say. Oh, so salty. Okay, that's it for today, guys. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe if you haven't already. For now, I'm going to go cry in a corner. So I'll see you guys next time.